Now I know what everybody's thinking. Where's my hat?
I know. I was going to say we should acknowledge your beautiful mane today.
Every single person ever has already moved to the comment section to freak out about my missing hat. I know. It's a big deal. Felt like going hatless today. It's also because I couldn't find my hat.
Watch everyone be like, oh, we didn't really care.
Yeah, no one cares. It's fine. No, I always wear a hat because of something like my hair will lay flat. And I don't like the way that looks sometimes, but it was looking nice today. So I decided to go hatless. I also couldn't find my hat. So this is where we are.
Yeah.
But
Fair enough. All right, let's get started.
sure.
Hello and welcome to the Fingerboard Brew, a conversational podcast about fingerboarding. My name is Annie Yan and I'm here with my co-host Evan.
Hey, what's going on? Thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. If you don't already follow us, we're on Instagram at the Fingerboard Brew. We're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube if you want the video version. Make sure you're subscribed on all those platforms so you never miss an episode.
So we're recording this 2 weeks before it goes live, but a few days ago, according to the time of now, we hit 1,000 followers on Instagram, and like that's absolutely insane. So thank you so much for the support.
Yeah, that's
I know.
super rad. I think when we were talking about this last night, when we set off to do this, we did not think that it was going to get to like that point. You know, like we just thought it was going to be hopefully a couple hundred people that check it out and like it and whatever. And I don't know. It's been every single time we put out an episode, there's just a lot of people sharing it, and we appreciate it so much. We don't do it for the followers, but
it's for us. Yeah. It's validation knowing that like some of the stuff is relevant to people. I guess it's not really about like I don't care about Instagram followers. It's like Evan said, but for us, it's just useful to know that what we're talking about is helpful or that people enjoy hearing it. Because if people don't enjoy hearing it, Evan and I could honestly probably just like talk every week together separately without recording it.
But yeah, I don't know. We put a ton of work into making this podcast as good as we can. So it just means a lot to see that people are vibing and enjoying it, and So yeah,
for sure.
I also just really wanted to quickly say that last week was our last weekly episode, and now this is going to be our first episode that we do every other week, and that's going to be the normal from here on out. Is podcast every other Monday. So just if you are thinking that we're missing episodes on Monday, don't
think that.
Yeah. Don't.
We just need a little bit more time in between episodes, because Evan is going to start school soon, and my work is picking up as well. So we just need a little bit more time in between to make sure we can get the highest possible quality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Content-wise. So right now it is the 2nd of February and it's the beginning of Black History Month. By the time the episode goes on, it will be the 16th, I think, which means we're like going to be halfway through the month. Evan and I were thinking about what we could do for Black History Month to contribute because, we don't get AdSense or anything like that from the podcast. But starting this episode, and you'll hear later on, we are taking episode sponsors. And what we've decided to do is that for originally we were thinking for every episode this month we could donate the money from that sponsored ad to charity. Like we were going to donate it to Color of Change, but then we realized this is going to be the only episode of this month. So we're just going to do four of the ad sponsors, right? So 4 weeks worth of sponsors, if you will. To be donated to Color of Change, which is a charity dedicated to Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. So, yeah, we were just thinking of something we could do, though, to give back to the community and stuff, so.
We'll also link in the description some BLM resources and some just, like, general resources that you should read to educate yourself and see how you can help as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super important, especially in this day and age and this period in time, being as socially conscious and aware as you can. So definitely check out some of those links because it's a really important cause.
All right, so let's jump into this week's episode. This week, we wanted to talk a little bit about oversaturation of deck companies, which is another one of those topics that I happen to talk about with friends as well. But before we get into that, what tea are you drinking, Evan?
Okay, so this is it's like lemon something. I actually wrote it down because
Lemon ginger?
no, lemon balm. It's an herbal tea. I got it when I went down to buy all those teas that one time. This came in it, and this is the last one. I don't like lemon, but this is the last tea I have, so I have to drink it for the podcast. So, yeah, it's okay.
The things you do for the pod.
It's okay. Yeah, the things I do for the pod. I don't hate it, but yeah. What about you, Annie?
I'm drinking like a Chinese tea. It's called, I think it's, I know it in Cantonese. I don't know what it is in English. It's called bo lei. Oh, it's pu'er tea. It's a very Chinese traditional tea.
Mm-hmm.
Also, my friend Core was saying he's mad that neither of us drink chai. And I was just saying I don't drink chai. Like, I don't like the taste of chai.
Yeah, I can only have herbal chai, and herbal chai is not as good as regular chai. So, yeah, I'm kind of...
First world problems.
I got to go back. Yeah, I got to go back and get more tea. That was more of a trial thing. You know, because I bought that tea before I knew that this was going to become like a real serious thing that we do constantly. So
Yes.
I got to step up the tea game. But yeah, awesome. So let's get started then.
So, we're not a news podcast or anything like that, but did you hear about the stuff that went down with Teak?
No, they're making new bushings.
Yes.
Okay.
So the reason why I bring this up is because I got into a not heated argument, but I did comment in the Teak, the newest like Teak post about how they're claiming to be making completely like new bushings and they're like changing the game or whatever. And actually a few people were saying that they're also mad about it. And do you know what's happening? Like, I just asked you and you said, okay, so basically Teak posted a few days ago, or I think maybe a week ago, that they're making that like an announcement soon. We're gonna have stuff that's like gonna completely change. Like, Teak is about to completely change the tuning game.
Okay.
And then a day later, they basically like write out all the, I guess, specs for what they mean by that, like molded bushings, different colors. They're all gonna be like perfect now. And I just looked at that, like, so South Soft bushings or like level up bushings, because apparently they're gonna have different hardness as well, which I don't think a ton of other companies do, but people were getting heated because, or I was getting heated directly at Teak, but people were also posting about it onto their stories, and I wanted to clarify like the reason why I and a few other people were annoyed, and it's because like, I don't care if you're a big company or a small company. I think it's just like not good to not acknowledge the work of other people, because like I said, other people had been posting about their bushings being molded, being different hardnesses, different colors, different just I think the molded bushing thing was their main selling point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just getting pissed off because I was like, dude, come on, like, other people have been doing it, acknowledge it. Where's your research and development team?
Yeah, I can't really speak to this at all because I don't really know what's going on, but yeah, I know that flat face I think has different hardnesses of bushings, if I'm correct. And I think Black River, it's like they got the different colors going on, but Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is also a good time to reference that we are not experts in fingerboarding at all. We know what we know, and
Yeah, and also like I'm just reporting on what I see and what I
mhm.
observe. Like
Yeah,
both of what we talk about is very based on our own experiences.
yeah.
But anyway,
Anyway,
back to oversaturation. Finally, um, where do you think, Evan, or when do you think oversaturation kind of started?
well, I think it depends on how you define oversaturation. So when you say that, like, what do you mean by oversaturation? Like, there are too many companies, or like,
I guess like a mixture of too many companies and also a lot of companies that people back but aren't that or like aren't don't have great craftsmanship, if that makes sense.
yeah, and that's definitely something that I want to talk about later because I think that there's, well, not necessarily a lack of craftsmanship, but I think that there's a lack of creativity sometimes in some companies, and yeah, but we'll get into that. But I would say that I don't know exactly when I would say it began, but I definitely think it began with the rise of the community moving to Instagram, which we spoke about a couple episodes ago, that switch. But it's just so much easier to now like directly market your products to fingerboarders. Like it's really easy to get like to share around and to spread information on Instagram. So if you start a company, you could easily get some sales in the first few days just because, you know, people are spreading it and hyping it up and stuff. So I would say that that came because of Instagram. I don't really remember that happening on YouTube too much. I know that there were deck companies on YouTube, but to the degree that I'm seeing on Instagram.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. I think also just a lot of people seem to number one, there's just so many concrete companies out there. Um, just so many.
Hmm.
I guess because it's the easiest way of making an obstacle. But
But it isn't. That's the thing, too. To do concrete really well, it actually takes a lot of time.
listen, I didn't say they did it well. I said there are a lot of people making concrete obstacle like and making it into a company. It doesn't matter if it's like good quality stuff.
Fair.
Like I'm talking about like just concrete.
Yeah.
It doesn't like it could be brittle and they'll still sell it.
Yeah. No, I always go back to my buddy Max. Shout out Max. He does skated the concrete obstacles, and like I mean the amount of work and effort that he put into the research to make sure it's like the best formula he could make was, you know, like he makes some really solid obstacles. So shout out
Have
skated.
you ever tried a have you ever tried a level ledges?
I have not. And are they the ones that just made that really sick video? Like product making video? Was that Level Edges? Do you know which one I'm talking about?
They made a product making video like a few months ago.
Was that a few months ago? Oh my
I don't know
gosh.
if we're talking about the same company though.
Man, people are gonna call me out on this. Let me I'm gonna check real quick.
Get up to date, Evan. Jeez. But what I was going to say is that I remember when Level Ledges was one of the few concrete obstacle companies that was well known and trustworthy. And honestly, to this day, I think they're probably still the highest quality concrete you can get.
They look sick. And it was Level Edges who made that video. And also I now that because you said it was months plural ago. Oh yeah, it was. It was in December of 2020, so it was almost 2 months ago. But
Told you.
damn, Annie knows her history.
I know, right?
But yeah, no, that it's you know it's easy to get concrete and throw it in a, you know, Tupperware mold and like think like, oh, this is the greatest, and throw some paint on it and sell it, and like, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just kind of like, I feel like you're kind of just making ledges to like sell something, you know, like make a profit off of it just cuz. And I think if you're going to start a company, you should bring a little bit more creativity to the process, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
Even a company that like Level Edges, he's still like, if you were on his Instagram right now, you would have seen that he's still constantly like switching it up, seeing what he can make that's slightly different. Or he has designs that aren't just like a concrete loaf, which is like, I think his most signature obstacle obviously is a concrete loaf, because you like, if I mean, it's a pretty like standard obstacle, or like a ledge. But he's been adding new things over the years. Like my first level ledge was, I think, 2014. I have it on my desk here, but I can't reach over because like
too
it's
far. Mess up the whole setup.
But I think I bought it in 2014 or 2015, and since then I've seen so much change, and I can tell so much has improved. I just wish I could get something from him now, but it's just too expensive for shipping. But yeah, I totally get what you mean. Like the whole, like, you need to bring something new to the table, I think, is what like we're trying to say. You know, like, don't just see someone do a thing and be like, I'm gonna do it exactly like how they do it.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later, but I definitely think that that is like an unfortunate truth in when we say oversaturation. But what about you? When do you think it started?
Yeah, I think I agree. Like, it started with Instagram because, like you said, information travels so much quicker and information travels differently. And like, if you have the right people to back you, people, like, you'll just get the hype anyway. But yeah, also all it takes nowadays is a good photo to help promote your stuff. Like, if you can take a nice photo, it doesn't matter. I don't think it's not that it doesn't matter if your product is bad or not. I think it's more like if your product is like mediocre or decent, people will buy it if the photo is like kind of nice.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, speaking strictly from a photography standpoint, I mean, like, you can completely separate yourself from the competition if you have good photos. And I know I will die on this hill, but I mean, you can get a better photo with your phone than you could have with a professional camera 10 years ago. Like, the technology is there, you have it in your pocket. Just look up a lighting tutorial and get some good product photos. Because, like, that makes the world a difference. Like, I was a portrait photographer when I did it professionally, but I shot products for a few different companies, and that's why I ended up not shooting product photos, was because I hate shooting product photos. But it is really important to companies to have that, like, it represents like your brand and like the quality that you want to have in your company. So yeah, sorry to go off on my photography tangent, but it is really
I was
important.
but my point was that, like, if your product is not the best, if you have a good photo, that will, like, if someone has a good photo but the product is meh, like, they'll still sell, like, the first time, probably not the second time, but the first time. And like, what you're saying is, like, it's a good thing if, like, you know for a fact that you have good product and that it's going to be great quality. You're like, a good photo is going to put you up there for sure.
Exactly, because what you just, like, what you said also works in the inverse. If you have a great product but a bad photo, people are probably going to think that the quality's not there, you know?
Because of the oversaturation, because it probably looks very similar to every other thing out there, and it's so difficult to tell whether a product is good quality or mediocre quality just from a photo. But yeah, like, to the point of what I was saying earlier about there being a lot of new concrete companies that aren't necessarily great. One other company that is good that has come about recently is, and I'm just going to give them a quick shout out, is Guai Guai's High. They're my local fingerboard shop, and Eric makes molds for every single design he does. and it's also professionally done. Like it's like he knows what he's doing. It's definitely not just like randomly done. Like he's definitely mixing it properly and stuff like that. So you can tell. Like unfortunately, I would say that his photos aren't the best. Like they're not the. I think he probably takes them in like a standard like white little box or something. But I mean, like you can tell the quality. Also, I just love his obstacles.
Quality is like really important. And I was, because I think that there's some people listening right now that are like, why does it matter if someone just slaps standard concrete into a mold and sells it? Like, quality was not something that was on my radar until I tried one of Max's ledges. Because again, I don't really buy concrete. So like, I just had like a basic old one that I got at an event forever ago kind of a deal. Like I didn't really know much about what it was, like what quality concrete was, and then when you use it, it makes like a world of a difference. And so it is really important to bring quality to concrete, and
Just in general. And we're not saying there aren't other companies out there that you can't trust. It's just from what I've seen, and I think from what we've both seen, there are very few, like in 100 companies, there are maybe like 5 or 10 that are actually good and legit. So you just need to take some time to sift or sieve. I don't know which one it is. Sift those bad ones out.
yeah. So if you are listening to this podcast, or hopefully watching it, sorry audio listeners, we were so mean to our audio listeners last episode. We love you guys. You're the backbone of this podcast. If you're listening to this and you think that you might be lumped into that 90 or 95% that aren't selling quality, do not get discouraged, and definitely don't think you have to stop. But assess what you're doing and how you can change it to make it better, because having a quality company requires a lot of work. And if you feel like you're just kind of throwing some stuff together, it's probably not worth selling. Like you got to figure out what you're going to do to differentiate yourself from the rest of the pack, because without that, there's not really going to be much progression in your company, and you're not going to see the results you're going to eventually want to see, because people see right through that. They see ideas that, you know, either that maybe draw inspiration from other places, but if it's just copying something, I mean, people, especially in this community, don't vibe with that. So don't get discouraged at all, but definitely think about what you need to do to change your operation and make it more legitimate and more, I don't want to say taken seriously, but like,
Yeah, I think it is taken seriously. I think it's like, actually, I think what you were saying was great, but like, I think it applies to anyone who's starting a company now. It doesn't matter if you think you're lumped into the 95%. If you're like, I want to sell boards, or I am currently selling boards, or I'm trying to, but nothing seems to be happening. I think that means you need to reassess like what's going on, figure out what it is, or see like why, or try to figure out why that is that like no one's buying.
yeah.
It could be the way you're presenting the product. It could be the actual product itself. And obviously like you, like not everyone can afford an amazing lighting setup, but you know, so my sponsor, Fizzy Decks, she makes some of like the best quality decks I know. And I'm not just saying that, like even before I sponsored her, even before she
When you
sponsored
sponsored
me,
Fizzy.
I sponsored her.
I have,
Before she sponsored me.
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'm so excited to get my Fizzy deck. I am very excited. They look so cool.
Yeah.
Hand painted. Anyway, what were you saying?
But I was saying like the quality was there, but one thing that we were both talking about like when we were on call was that she needed to work more on her photos, because she felt like her photos weren't really representing the company and weren't representing the quality of her boards. And I was like, yeah, that's totally okay. And I gave her a couple of tips on how she can do that. But, you know, just know, like, if you're a small company, you're not, like, the only one. who's struggling. There are companies that are in like the medium tier and in terms of popularity and still struggle with these types of issues. But yeah.
And I just wanted to say, like, I do typically respond to all of my DMs, at least most of them. So if you ever have like photo questions, definitely hit me up, because that was my main passion before all of this. Like, so I can definitely.
Yeah, Evan is like genuinely a professional photographer, and we don't mean like a photographer, like a kid with a camera who says they're a photographer. This man did a TED talk.
I did a TEDx talk.
TEDx talk.
I'm not that cool. No, but yeah, that was how I made like the majority of my money for the past like 4 years. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really shoot anymore. It's stressful. It's so stressful. Yeah. Like, you want to do like film and you got your degree in that, and like I couldn't imagine like that takes a really specific level of dedication that I just recognized I didn't have, and that's why I pulled myself out. But
fair enough.
So we've been talking about concrete like pretty much the whole time, but I think one of the main things when I think of like an oversaturation of companies is decks. Would you agree that there's it translates to that as well?
Oh, for sure. If anything, I think there's more oversaturation in decks than obstacles or concrete. I don't know why it is. I guess because well, I was gonna say concrete or just like making obstacles in general takes more space, but I feel like making boards takes a longer period of time and probably takes up also a lot of space. But I don't know anything about it because I've never made a board.
To do it right, it takes up a ton of space. Okay. And I think you could say that about ramps and concrete as well, but I just like, again, I know I've said this a million times, I'm not going to make decks because I looked into what it entails and it's too much. So,
you know, I think it's great that more and more people are interested in making decks and stuff like that, but something that I'm not seeing or I'm not feeling at the moment with new companies is perfecting the craftsmanship. So in the past, you definitely watch company owners go from making boards with maybe like a Bondo mold. If any of the kids out there, or I'm not even like that old, like I started fingerboarding in 2014. But back then I still remember people talking about Bondo molds, and everyone started off making blanks. Then they perfected that process, and then they moved on to split plies, and then they moved on to paper graphics or screen printed stuff, mainly because the method of real wear for fingerboarding didn't really come about until later. But when it did come, it was still those steps, and then the end game was real wear. Nowadays, people jump straight to real wear. And the issue is, like, the issue I have with it is that a lot of the time, these same companies that are jumping straight to real wear haven't even perfected that first step of making the perfect blank. Yeah. That many of these other companies who, like, let's say Beast Pants, like you see Beast Pants with real wear stuff now. But it took a lot to get to this point. A new company that we could talk about is like Doom Lagoon. I don't know. Have you heard of Doom Lagoon?
I have heard of Doom Lagoon, but
okay. Yeah. So Noah used to make boards under a different name. I think it was like Cali Fingers, or Cali, something like that. Okay. And he quit the scene for a bit, but then he came back. And obviously, like, he started using RealWear. But the only reason why I know for a fact, like, he jumped to RealWear is because he has had so much experience making boards. And he isn't going to sell a single board that isn't completely perfect. And again, not to plug Fizzy. Fizzy has been making boards for years, but she didn't start selling them till last year because she was just like, I'm not going to sell anything that's not good quality. And she just like kept practicing for years and years and years until finally it was of the like a quality that could compete with other people.
This brings up a point that I really wanted to touch on, but you know, Annie, I kind of think we should take a break right now and leave them on a cliffhanger.
Oh yeah, we should cut to break.
Our first break. I wonder what this is for. All right.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a second.
This episode of the Fingerboard Brew is brought to you by Goo Ltd, a company with great craftsmanship and original graphics.
Goodex is a fingerboard company based out of Nebraska in the United States, and I think I speak for both of us when I say that these decks are some of the highest quality we've ever tried. I mean, I had this one specifically set up for a few days, and it was just such a really fun shape and a really good board.
Goo offers probably the most diverse and unique shape selection with 10 options to choose from. I have the Goo Baku and the Goo Spell, and I've been loving both of them so far as well.
He does split plies made from recycled skateboards as well as real wear with a variety of different graphics. Every deck is made to order and comes with a top graphic and a professional finish.
And guess what, Fingerboard Brew listeners? If you're looking to get a Goo deck for yourself, we've got a deal for you. For the first 10 of you who order from Goodex, you can get $5 off your entire order if you enter the code FBBREW at checkout. That's FBBREW.
If you want to see more of the amazing boards that Goo makes, definitely check out the Instagram at goo.ltd. And if you want to get a board, check out gooltd.com. And don't forget to use the promo code FBBREW at checkout. Thank you, Goo, so much for sponsoring this episode. So yeah, welcome back. Super rad. Our first sponsor for a show. If you're interested in sponsoring an episode, definitely send us an email. It's just thefingerboardbrew@gmail.com, I think. Is it?
Yes.
Man.
Yes.
I'm so bad at that. I feel like I made that account. Unless you did. Oh, no. I think you made the Gmail and I made the Instagram.
Yes.
Way back. Anyway. So what I was saying before the break and what I feel like we've been beaten to death in this podcast is that, with Fizzy specifically, hand-painted decks. People do hand-painted decks, but being an artist, her style of painting is going to be different than any other person. So I think she looked at like, what am I doing and how can I make it my own? And I know that you're probably yelling at the screen right now because we've said this so many times, but this is a perfect example of that, where she took this art that she does and brought it to fingerboarding. And that's super rad and like a perfect example of a way that you can make yourself different and stand out.
Yeah, same with Goat on the Road as well.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
This is like the perfect time to just show like you can have hand-painted boards but two totally different styles, and that's what makes them have different selling points too.
Yeah, I did not want to set up my Goat on the Road deck, but it looked like such like a good shape, so then I did set it up, but I was like, I'm not going to do any slides with it. I'm just going to skate flat ground. And then that lasted like 20 minutes. And now it's like my main setup. It's just such a beautiful board. I didn't want to ruin it, but I don't know. I had to.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, no, super. Shout out Helena. That's rad board. But
so to bring it back to like the issue of craftsmanship, I've tried different decks from different people, from companies who don't even apply the graphic on properly. Like the edges were frayed when I got the boards. So they apply the real wear, but it's so obvious to me that they're like trying to cover up something that just doesn't look good, or it just like isn't of the right quality. Or I've seen people who use real wear, but you ask them to do a split ply and it is so bad. Or you ask them to do a blank and the sanding is off or something like that. But then with the real wear, it looks like a rideable deck. Yeah. You know, it still doesn't look perfect, but it looks like a rideable deck. And yet they're still selling their boards for like $35 or like plus off the bat. And they think that just because they have realware, they can do that. But a single sheet of realware costs like 15 cents. So that's not enough of a justification.
Yeah.
I think if we want to avoid oversaturation, we need to have people start perfecting their deck making skills first before they start selling anything, like I was saying.
Yeah.
Just get to making the perfect blank first, you know?
Yeah. Because we can tell, and the effort and quality that you put into it is going to determine the success of your company. So, yeah, definitely.
And to bring up Doom Lagoon again, something that I realized today, because I'm actually ordering a board from him, I went onto his website and he has amazing boards. He does realware, and he sells his boards for $25. I haven't seen a company sell their boards for that affordable in a really long time. And
Yeah, definitely.
his quality is on par with a lot of other companies out there. And I'm not saying companies like Beast Pants shouldn't be charging the amount they do, because I mean, Beast Pants has like a whole, like, that's like a whole different world. Like, I feel like when you enter the Beast Pants like world, it is like, it's like he has characters that he's created, that he's designed. He does so much marketing, and like so much experience like comes from Chris too. But what I'm trying to say is that if a new company like Doom Lagoon, who has also a lot of experience making boards, his graphics are more simple, but if he can make his boards that affordable, there is no reason that that if you're like a kid, or not a kid, that's kind of condescending, but if you're like a teenager and it's your first time making boards, don't start selling your boards for 25 or 30 bucks or 30 plus, just because you slap realware on there. There's no point. The thing that you should be aiming for is, not to get into marketing, but like brand loyalty from, or, customer loyalty, because I think we talked about this earlier as well, but like if I buy from a company and I know, or I'm like, oh, this is not the quality I wanted it to be, I'm not going to buy from them again. Even if logically I know in like a year's time or 2 years' time, they've probably improved. My first impression of the company has already gone downhill.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like going all the way back to episode 1, when we talked about like why some prices are that high, it's because people are, making their livelihood on it. So if you're starting a company now and you're wondering what you should be pricing your boards, like definitely look at the quality and understand that like your first attempts are not going to be worth like 30 to 40 bucks, but like, also recognize like what's your return on investment going to be. And like if you spent $100 on everything and think like, okay, I want to make this $100 back, make 10 boards, sell them for $10 each, and then you're in the positive, and then from there you can just keep working on it. But it's definitely not like the best idea to get like a 3D printed mold, some veneer from eBay, press a board, and then sell it for $45. Like that's just it's unrealistic, so yeah. But again, I don't want anyone to go away from this being discouraged from starting a company. I think starting a fingerboard company is one of the raddest things you can do. Just make sure that if you do it, you're doing it for the right reasons and you have a good product and something different, But
yeah. And speaking of something different, I think a lot of that is graphics. And something I wanted to bring up is, I think to go back to the point you were just talking about, like why boards are priced the way they are. So Flint, okay, is a company which I think for a lot of people, they're like, why are their boards so expensive? So I'm pretty sure they're even just their logo boards are screen printed, I think, or wood printed. But then all their other graphics are collaborations with other artists, whether that's like a photographer, a digital artist, or an illustrator. And the reason why Flint charges the prices they charge is because number one, the decks already have insane craftsmanship. But number two, I'm assuming they want to pay the artists they're collaborating with, and they want to pay them fairly.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we could use this as a transition and maybe talk about hype companies, or what we deem to be hype companies, what that means. And because like I mean, I didn't really understand what you meant by hype companies until like we did talk about it. And like, you know, it's broad, but
it is a broad one. Yeah, the reason why I was like, we were discussing, okay, what can we talk about during this episode? And the reason why I brought up hype companies was because I think one mistake a lot of newer companies who start up make is that they look up to a lot of hype companies. But before we get into that whole thing, I think we should try and define what we mean by a hype company.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you should go first.
Okay. So a few days ago, or by the time you guys listen to this, it would have been like a few weeks ago, or maybe even like a month ago, I asked on my Instagram what companies come to mind when I say hype company, and I left it broad because I was interested in knowing what you guys thought. And what was really interesting was seeing how some people didn't actually get what I meant. And I think they thought I meant companies that are really cool. Like someone said Fingerboard Connoisseur is a hype company, and that's not what I'm talking about.
It's a company you get hyped on, but it's not a hype
yeah, it's a company you get hyped on.
Yeah.
But even had people asking me what I meant by hype, and I just didn't want to answer because I was seeing all these different responses from different people. And I just kept wanting to get more responses to see what you guys thought. But yeah, when I talk about a hype company, I'm thinking about companies, and I think generally when we talk about hype companies, we're talking about ones that seem to only do it for the profit and not really the community. People who only do it for the clout and the money, and they don't seem to care that much about their audience or their community that much. The whole business is like quite self-serving. Like that's what we're talking about, kind of. And at the same time, a lot of these companies actually make product that is, you know, no different than any other company. Like, and what I mean by that is like you can find product that's of the same quality and sometimes better than some of these hype companies.
But for less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for less, or it's just like not as hyped.
Yeah. No, and fingerboard companies, like there are definitely some out there that sell their decks for a significant amount of money, but like you said with Flint, like there's a reasoning behind that. It's not just to like make some crazy profit and be like the rarest fingerboard company. Like there's a reason and a quality that comes with it, and like so it's when I think of hype, it's like you were saying, it's more broad than just what the price point is. But I think I think you kind of know it when you see it, and you like see a company that just sort of like, it seems like they're there almost under false pretenses, like they're just trying to like
we're like sort of like, so we're sort of dancing around the subject mostly because we don't want to name any companies. I also think honestly there is an art to building a hype company. Like they go through a lot of effort to market their stuff. So one of the reasons why I say that a lot of smaller or newer companies that are coming about are making a mistake by trying to be like those hype companies. Oh my God. And the reason why I was saying that some of these smaller companies or newer companies are making a mistake by trying to build their company in a similar way to these hype companies is because a lot of the time they don't have the skills that these people who are simply trying to profit off of the community have. And you know, for me, most if not all hype companies always have amazing photography,
Mm-hmm.
which I honestly like. I really admire it. But you have to be able to, like we were saying, like present your products in a certain way that makes it look perfect no matter what. And yeah, like I said, like the problem with a lot of the smaller companies trying to be like hype companies is they don't know how to do that yet.
Yeah. There's a quality to hype companies products that kind of put them where they are. Like you can't just like say like I'm gonna start selling like $100 decks and then make terrible decks. You know, like you have to have a
Yeah, they
good
are still
product.
good quality things. Like they're
Yeah.
still good quality. I think the idea of hype comes from like where their intentions lie more
Mm-hmm.
so than the actual quality. And I was gonna say, because you brought this up, you were talking about rare, like rareness of something,
Mm-hmm.
and I was gonna say that when I was writing up my notes, I was like, hang on a second, because a couple of people commented companies like Woob or Preet or Flint as a hype company. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, hang on, no, I don't think those are hype companies. I think those are what we knew as rare companies, and they're still rare companies.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, even though they are still considered rare, I think a lot of people are placing them or are mixing up the term rare with the term hype because these companies like Wub, Catfish, Preet, Pop Dex, or Flint are still they're companies that make really good quality stuff, and I think the biggest difference between the companies I mentioned and some of the hype companies that came about in the last 2 or 3 years is that these companies got hype because of the quality and
Mm-hmm.
obviously also how rare they are, but I don't personally feel like the rareness was really intentional. Like it's just like they just so happened to be rare because they only had so much time in their lives to make boards since it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't their full-time job. And then the hype was created organically by the audience and the people around them. And like they continued to preserve the rareness of it. And but by that point they had already cultivated an audience.
Yeah. No, and like I mean, Popdex has been around forever. They've been around for so long. So like it's exactly it's that it's you know rare. I mean, even Preet I think has been around for
Yeah.
like longer than I've been fingerboarding. Like it's
And because they've been around for so long, they already they built an audience, they built a customer base, you know,
mm-hmm.
over years of deck making, not like a
Yeah.
year or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, however long, you know. These companies have been around for a long time.
Yeah, and also like with anything like um they have been making decks for so long and they have like been able to like master making them just because of how much time they've put into it. It's the same thing with fingerboarding. If you have been fingerboarding for 10 years and working on it really hard, you're going to see those results. So it's like they're almost like they could teach the master class in making decks. But one thing I did want to say, just so we can bring it full circle, is we talked about concrete and decks, and I just wanted to see, do you really see an oversaturation in the ramp making world?
I think it depends on the ramps. So when you're talking about ramps, I'm guessing you're like referring specifically to wooden ramps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when I think ramps and obstacles, and then that like concrete also falls under that. But you're talking specifically about wooden stuff. Is that it?
Yeah, no, I don't know if it's just because I like to collect Black River ramps. Like when I think of ramps, I
Oh,
think of like wooden, like pine wood ramps. I don't even know if that is
okay.
pine wood.
Just
I'm
wanted to clarify that because I don't want people to be like concrete is also a ramp.
yeah, no, it definitely is. Like when I'm just thinking like Black River like arc ramps or something, and I just like I have seen very specific examples. Like I know someone recently like ripped off the design of an arc ramp and like sold it as their own. And like, you know, your face. You're like,
I posted about this
yeah,
like
it's
several times.
like, that is just gross. Like, don't do that. But like, you know, Dawn makes ramps that are different than any other fingerboard ramp, and once again, perfect example of doing something different. And so like, if you draw inspiration from that, you wouldn't be copying them. I mean, this person copied them. Like, they blatantly made the exact same ramp. But like, you know, think of something like how he does with like the 2x4 wood, making the frames of the ramps and stuff. So like, using that as inspiration in another capacity is something that's cool. But like, to just rip it off completely and steal the design, like, that's a whole different story. But other than that,
Yeah, I
and
think
some other, yeah.
so. I posted about this today, actually, about the ripping off thing, and several people messaged me being like, "But there's only so many designs that you can make." If you've never heard of arc ramps, or if you've never properly seen or studied how arc ramps look different from like Black River ramps, because a standard quarter pipe, yeah, okay, like or like a half pipe can, like, they're all gonna look like half pipes. But look at Dead Billy, look at Black River, and look at the arc ramps half pipes.
Half pipe, yeah.
They all look different. Like the mini ramps, they all look different.
Yeah.
They all have different designs, and obviously over time, like, so many people have copied Black River, like the standard Black River obstacles, but what Dawn and Dead Billy have been doing very differently is I don't know how Dead Billy makes his ramps. I think they're just so cool. It just looks like internal splits to me.
It's CNC. He cuts them out CNC and then glues them together. Yeah. Because I was like, oh my, if he's hand cutting all of these, like, that's gonna be impossible.
Yeah, because like specifically with like you were saying, like arc ramps, he builds it differently too, in a different way. You just, like, people were asking me, there's only so many ways you can make it. I'm like, no, because like Dawn has a very specific design. Like, arc ramps have a very specific look to them that no other company has. And this copy company has been told off before by the community, and yet like they're still making the ramps. I don't understand what they're trying to do here, and they're also like charging more for them.
Yeah. No, it's annoying. And like, that's a specific example, but I just wanted to say that, like, other than that, I don't really see an oversaturation the way I do in other companies, because ramp making is difficult. It takes space. It takes so much time. It takes so many tools. Like, you can't get started for $100, you know? It takes a lot more. So like, money and knowledge and experience. So like, I don't think in that capacity we see it as much as any other companies, but yeah. And then I'm not to name any names, but I also know that there's a company that bought some rails from someone, completely copied the design, and then undercut the prices, and they've gotten away with it. And so don't do that either. But yeah, it's
Evan
annoying.
will be telling me offline who he's talking about.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's annoying, but what can you do?
Yeah. Just don't do that. Just
definitely
just
don't do that. Well, do you have anything else before we wrap up?
Well, just, I guess, like, to bring this whole conversation to a conclusive, not point, but just like a conclusion. You know, we are only speaking from, well, at least I am only speaking from a consumer point of view. Evan does speak from a wood making point of view, because he does build his own ramps from time to time. But we definitely don't want any of this to sound condescending, which is why I just wanted to preface or just make a disclaimer that we are speaking from specific perspectives, and neither of us speak from experience of running a fingerboard business, but Evan has experience running a business in photography, and I work with clients, and I freelance, so we know what it's like to have loyal customers versus loyal clients. But
Yeah.
for me and for both of us, we were always trying to make sure that the clients or new clients that we're working with want to work with us again in the future. And for a fingerboard company, that's making sure customers will want to keep buying product from you in the future.
Yeah.
And that means that you need to make your product perfect and on par with the prices that you're charging. And honestly, starting at a lower price than going up will probably make your company also more trustworthy and more appealing.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. It's do that, and then definitely make sure that you're doing something different, and yeah, that's all you really can do. But yeah, so all right, so yeah, we upload now. Just as a reminder, we upload every other week, so it's not going to be weekly anymore. But if you do want to hear more from us, once again, we're on Instagram at the Fingerboard Brew.
And if you want to check out any of our other episodes, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Thank you again to Goo Ltd for sponsoring this episode of the Fingerboard Brew.
Definitely go get one. I don't know when the sticker fell, but sorry. Definitely go check out Goo decks, because they're super rad and really fun. So, all right.
Totally.
See y'all next week when we talk about another interesting topic. I could say what it is right now. I have it right there, but I'm not going to. You're going to have to wait. Bye.